Hi, my name is Addison Lewis, and my partner, Julia Gribb, and I will be doing a documentary on Woodrow Wilson, the 28th President of the United States. Wilson was a very honorable and remembered president in his time and in the history books now. He was president from 1913 to 1921. Woodrow Wilson was a very educated man who led America to making the world safe for democracy. Wilson was very strong in his faith and knowledge in language. Wilson led America through World War I, supported women's suffrage, proposed the 14 points, and agreed on the Treaty of Versailles. The information we gathered about Wilson came from the sources Woodrow Wilson, The Years of Preparation, and Woodrow Wilson, Medical and Psychological Biography. Though Woodrow Wilson was a very knowledgeable and dependent man on his spiritual health, he struggled psychologically in work, which led him to stress and many strokes that led to his death. According to Woodrow Wilson's life, he has a very personal, harsh backstory, which comes with many difficult life circumstances. As a young boy, Wilson suffered dyslexia as a child. He was not able to read until he was 10. He had much of depression, and as an adult, he had cerebral vascular disease. The cerebral vascular disease becomes active after one has a stroke. The symptoms are troubled walking, speaking, writing, and paralysis. According to the chronology of Woodrow Wilson's major illnesses, Wilson's first initial stroke was May 1896. This stroke caused his upper frontier side to become weak, and he was unable to write normal for almost a year. On May 28, 1908, Wilson had lost vision in his left eye and was unable to write normal for almost a year. On May 28, 1906, Wilson had loss of vision in his left eye, and the weakness on his side had become worse. Wilson began a cause of neuritis, which is the inflammation of nerves in the peripheral nervous system. This was in April 1913. April 3rd through 7th, the flu took over Woodrow's body, and he suffered many parts, and this affected his brain and heart. Wilson had very severe headaches that affected his work and mind. October 3rd, 1919, he had a massive stroke that paralyzed the left side of his body. This stroke restricted his vision and made him mentally impaired. From 1923 to 1924, he had lost most of his vision. On February 3rd, 1924, Wilson had passed away. During all of his strokes, severe headaches, loss of vision, and inability to write, Wilson ran his presidency during most of the time of adversity. He believed in fighting through this by putting his faith in God and having good mental health. In Chapter 8 of Woodrow Wilson, A Medical and Psychological Biography, Wilson quoted, "You shall not find happiness without health." Wilson was said to be born between the Bible and the dictionary. He was a very educated man who was very strong on his faith. Wilson was able to adapt to stress because of his outstanding knowledge and personality. Wilson focused on his mental health because he knew it would help him with the struggles of his health and facing reality. In Chapter 8 of the Wilson Medical and Psychological Biography, Wilson stated that he was to please the ear and govern the emotions. Wilson's view and part of sense of reality came from his father. According to the passage, his father had taught him not to use stereotyped gestures and vocal effects. He was to enhance the power of his words. This soon made Woodrow Wilson one of the most well-known presidents of all time because of his honesty and loyalty to our country. On this slide, this quote specifically from Woodrow Wilson states, "If you lose your wealth, you have lost nothing. If you lose your health, you have lost something. But if you lose your character, you have lost everything." This is basically how Woodrow Wilson was as a person. His life depended on his health, but it mainly depended on how he was as a person, who he described himself to be as a character. He was very strong, he could face adversity, and he showed the people what leadership was. He showed people his true character, and his true character was to be the best man he could be. There are very many decisions and events that Woodrow Wilson made that made him famous and brought him into the history books. Wilson was a well known president and respected enough to be remembered in the history books because he had very many accomplishments. Wilson's accomplishments included leading America through World War I, supporting women's suffrage, enacting laws, proposing the 14 points, and agreeing on the Treaty of Versailles to end World War I. Woodrow Wilson tried avoiding World War I the first time when a German submarine torpedoed and sank the British ocean liner. This killed over 1,000 people and half of them were Americans. Wilson warned Germans, in the future our reaction would be unfriendly. In Chapter 6, A War President of the Years of Preparation, Wilson responded to the submarine incident. He stated he did not believe there was the slightest danger to this country from foreign invasion, even if the Germans were unsuccessful. Wilson had complete faith and confidence in his army that even if the Germans were successful and they had to go into war, the United States would be stronger than them. In 1917, and specifically on April 2nd, 1917, Wilson declared war after German submarines launched a submarine attack against U.S. merchant ships. Wilson believed in peace and no violence in America. He believed in making the world safe for democracy. Woodrow Wilson is famous because of his wanting to be a representative of people and not representing himself. He was a very selfless person. He wanted to look out for the general interest of the country, and this is what made him lead us through World War I and create the 14 points. According to history, the 14 points Wilson made after World War I were to prevent future world wars. The 14 points were later created said that World War II could have been avoided if people followed the points he created. The 19th Amendment was created after Wilson supported women's suffrage. He was really into people's rights and equality. Wilson created child labor laws, 8-hour workday laws for railroad workers, and created government loans to farmers. Lastly, Wilson agreed and negotiated the Treaty of Versailles to end World War I. This is what makes Wilson one of the best presidents who earned his way into the history books. Why should we remember Wilson in the 21st century? We should remember Wilson because of his signs of ambition and leadership made him a dependable person in America. In Chapter 6 of Woodrow Wilson, The Years of Preparation, there is a passage that says, the type of leadership Wilson had demonstrated, however, accorded with the Burkean conception he had described in his 1890 lecture on this subject, to follow, not to force, the public inclination. His ear had rung with the voices of the people, as he had attempted to chart a course that would bring the greatest national unity. As president, Wilson's job was to lead the United States and guide their freedoms without violence. Wilson did a good job avoiding that issue until the time had come and he had to declare what had to be done in order to protect America. We remember Wilson because he gave women rights and supported their ability to be equal. Without Wilson's very active and creative presidency, America would not be where it is today. Because of his strength in difficulty and health, he is to be remembered in the 21st century. His strength is to be known to people.